Hey everybody, Astral Hex Encounter. With the kind of unboxing of sorts, or look inside the box of a game that I've had for quite a few months. Just for some reason or other haven't really talked about it. That's called Dragonmaster. The ultimate power struggle in a forgotten land. It's from 1981, Milton Bradley. And it's a card trick-taking game, basically, that I won on Board Game Geek, an auction that was going on. So Board Game Geek has, not only do they have a marketplace through Board Game Geek, and they show you links to eBay auctions, they also do sort of, in the forums, there's spots for auctions that people selling off their stuff, or groups of people putting on an auction, and basically all you do is you just bid like you would in any other one. There's an ending date that's listed at the top of the auction. They usually don't tell you the time. They make it random on a given date, just so they can try to avoid a little bit of people just snipering and those sort of things. And once the auction's closed, they put the item up in the geek market with your name attached to it, and they do that because then Board Game Geek gets 3% of the commission to kind of help with site maintenance and etc., whatever they use it for. Not a bad deal. It's better than dealing with eBay. I've dealt with them quite a bit. Bought stuff from people on Board Game Geek quite a few times now, mostly to really positive experiences. And this was another one of those positive experiences. So the auction was for a guy who was selling off a lot of his games. At the top of it, it said all games are in great condition and all pieces are there, or all games are complete rather. And this had been on my list for a little while due to the fact of you can subscribe to kind of board games, so to speak. So every time that board game is mentioned in a thread, you'll get notified of it. So when I got Mushroom Eaters, I subscribed to the Mushroom Eaters game, and a thread came up of, it was people talking about board games throughout their lives that had art that they really responded to, like really either unique or what they would call just amazing art. And this is one of those games I think that ended up in that thread. And once I kind of saw it and saw the price ranges and that it might be fairly easy to come by, added it to my list. Lo and behold, it popped up. So when I bid on it, the guy was really great to deal with, no issues. The shipping was the shipping. It's just, that's a matter for a separate video, probably, about shipping costs to Canada and things. And the options, it was still worth it. I think it was still worth it. 39 playing cards, 68 plastic crystals, 1 drawstring pouch to store the crystals, 4 score charts, and a detailed instruction booklet. Unfortunately, when I got it, the box and stuff is in great shape. There's nothing wrong with it. The pouch wasn't there, and there was a few crystals short. I think that we might have 65. Not enough to make the game unplayable by any stretch, but not complete. So I had sent him a message back saying, hey, I saw that you said the games were complete. Maybe this got misplaced. He's apologized and had a look at his house, and to his credit, he couldn't find the pieces, and without even a word about it, he just refunded my money that I paid and the money that I spent on shipping. He gave me a complete refund, let me keep the game, and apologized. And I was really pleased with that. I mean, because honestly, if I would have seen that it was incomplete, I would have not bid on it. I wouldn't have bought it. I'm not, especially because I'm paying such high prices for shipping to get games to Canada when I do this. I really want them to be in great condition, and I really want them to be complete. because it's costing me, and I don't want to have to buy a game and then hunt for parts and then hunt for an upgrade or something like that, you know. So I just want to buy these games the one time. So I thought it was a really, I don't know, I thought it was a really nice gesture. I didn't even ask him. Like I said, he just automatically did, which was great. I was very happy with it. So enough of my rambling. Let's look inside, and I'll tell you about the game, and we'll look at some fantastic art. Here we have a look at the crystals that come with the games. They're kind of these plastic beads. There's diamonds that are worth 20,000, emeralds that are worth 10,000, rubies that are worth 5,000, and sapphires that are worth 1,000. You start off the game with 2 diamonds, 3 emeralds, 5 rubies, and 5 sapphires. Of course, all this means that by the end of the game you want to be the person with the most crystals, basically, to be the winner. As I mentioned before, it's basically a trick-taking game, or even more specific, a don't take tricks game. It's broken down, it's for 3 to 4 players. Everybody gets a little cheat sheet here that you can see, which does a few things. It tells you what you get to start, the value of the crystals, the different games, and then on the flip side is for the advanced game, the power play game, which I won't be talking about. We didn't play the power play, we just played the basic version. There's 4 suits of cards, and they are the druids, the warriors, the dragon lords, and the nomads. Each of those suits basically break down into this ranking, king being the highest, fool being the lowest. I believe for the beginner game you take out the fool and the baron cards, I think is what we did. It's been a little while since we've played it, so you're left with those. So that stays out in the middle of the table. How do you play? A player is chosen at random to be the first Dragonmaster. The Dragonmaster for that kind of section, it's broken up into 5 different hands per Dragonmaster. So basically if you're playing a 3-person game, you're playing 15 hands of cards. And at the end of the 15 hands, you're tallying up and seeing who's the winner. Or I guess you could play more if you want, but so for each round of his 5 hands, the Dragonmaster is in charge of, you know, shuffling and dealing the cards. Once all the cards are dealt, everybody looks at their hand, including the player being the Dragonmaster, and then he or she gets to decide which of the 5 games they want to play based on their hand. There's a set of cards that have the game on it with its objective that then also go into the middle of the table, so there's a constant reminder of what game that you're playing, and then your little reference card beside you as well. So what are the games? We'll kind of go through them, and then I'll explain, or I'll explain as we're going. So the first one is Rune Sword, and the objective on this one is to don't take the Prince of Warriors, the Wizards, which is don't take any wizards, the Dragon Lords, which is don't take any Dragon Lords, and then First or Last, which is don't take the first or the last trick, and then Staff of Power, and this is a special one. It says don't take anything, see rules. So what that means is when you play the Staff of Power section, basically what you're doing is you're playing all 4 of the previous games listed all in one hand. So when you're playing Rune Sword, you're just playing the Rune Sword. When you're playing Staff of Power, you're playing First and Last, Dragon Lords, Wizards, and Rune Sword, for example. And then the benefits are there. So what are the benefits? When you're the Dragonmaster, let's say that you're playing the Rune Sword game, and it says don't take the Prince of Warriors. when a player takes the trick that has the Prince of Warriors card in it, they have to pay the Dragonmaster, in this case, 8,000 crystals as a kind of a penalty for taking the card. Now, if you're the Dragonmaster and you take the trick with the Prince of Warriors, you don't collect anything. There's not like a bank that you get the money from or anything. It's just you lose on taking money from other players is what that stands for. So that's your chance to kind of make the money when you're the Dragonmaster. That's your chance to really cash in. Because once you've played the 5 games, it goes to the next player, and then they become the Dragonmaster, and we play 5 more hands. And then once that's done, it goes to the 3rd player, and so on, until everybody's been the Dragonmaster. So you really want to cash in as much as you can, and then, especially if you're the player who first is the Dragonmaster, you really want to cash in, and then for the rest of the game, you really have to make sure that you're not losing any hands. So that's basically it. It's by no stretch a difficult game. At least the basic one isn't. On the back side, like I said, there is the power play, which includes a dragon card. It includes the Fool and the Baron cards as well. And I'm assuming it's just a little more intense. But like I said, we haven't played it yet. Another thing to note is on the back of these cards is the power play side. So if you are playing that advanced game, they have it listed on the card so you can keep that face up too. Which I really like that idea. I mean, not only is it a chance for more fantastic art, but then there's no excuses. Everything is laid out on the table. You know exactly what you're playing. You know the ranking of the cards. You know what your objective is, and you know what the penalties are. So it makes it a little easier for everybody to follow. And even playing with my son, he did really well at it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. The cards are a little they're bigger than standard playing cards. Maybe I'll do a comparison here. Let's go for a walk. I'll take out my... Give me 1 sec. Sorry here. They're a little bigger than standard playing cards. Here's a standard size playing card just for an example. So yeah, and they're just really, like I said, it's mind-blowing art. The artist, whose name escapes me right now, thankfully I have the computer right here, so maybe as I'm talking we'll look for his name. The artist only did 2 games in his career, this being one and the other being Tower of something. While I'm doing that, so we'll just have a look through some of the cards here. We'll go through all the cards. Let me just see. Dragonmaster 1981. His name, the artist's name is Bob Pepper. And the other game that Bob Pepper did the art for that's listed on Board Game Geek is a game called Dark Tower. And that was put out in 1981 from Milton Bradley as well. So the only art that he has done in gaming are those 2 within the same year. Now, I don't know what his background is. I haven't looked into him any further than that. I don't know if he comes from a novel illustration world or something. Maybe that's something I'll look into today. But regardless of the fact it was what sold me on the game, it just turns out that the game is also really fun too. And I like having a game around the house. We have a lot of games that are quite a bit more involved and maybe a little complex and take, you know, a couple of hours to play. This one is a nice kind of lighter, quick game. I've always played card games my whole life. They've always been something that's been around. My Opa was vehemently against card games. He was a somewhat religious man, and was convinced, like a lot of older generation people were, that playing cards was a devil's pastime, and it's just not something that good Catholics or Christians do. So he never participated with us. Our step-grandma, however, she played cards with us all the time. We played rummy together, and as well as playing just cards every single time we'd go to the farm where they lived to visit for the weekend. We'd end up playing cards. I've always loved card games. So it's another one of those things that it's great to play these kind of games with my son as well, and just seeing the joy and just having that moment with him. You know, it's bonding with board games, right? There you go. That's speaking of which, the chief, who used to be on the Dice Tower, has a channel, Bonding with Board Games, that I'm enjoying. And the thing that I'm enjoying about it the most on his channel is his group of war gamers, and they do some videos under the moniker Hamtag. If you haven't seen them and you're interested in war games, they're great videos. They're interesting guys. They do a lot of, what their videos basically are top 5 lists. So they'll have things like top 5 introductory war games, their top 5 war games period, their top 5 most overrated war games was one of the most recent ones, which was entertaining to watch. And because a couple of them, 2 out of the 3 of them, have a huge history, well, one specifically, Greg, has a really long history of playing war games since, I believe, the 70s. The knowledge that they have and the depth that they can talk about some of these games is really great to listen to. They turned me on to a couple of war games that have made it to my list. They might have been the ones that turned me on to the Winter War as well, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was them. But there's a few war games on my list, and it's due to those videos. So if you have any interest, I'll make sure that I leave the link. Please go and check them out. I love the Chief. I've always liked his videos, even when they were on Dice Tower. He was always one of my favorites to listen to. He's a cop, and just loves board gaming. Really seems like a really great guy. Great group of guys. So highly recommended. Princess of Druids, The Wizard of Druids. It's just such phenomenal art. I can see this kind of art, especially these wizard cards, as kind of covers to some Black Sabbath inspired doom metal band. It's really great stuff. Very bold. I love the outlining. I love the colors. I love the kind of, I don't know, just the way they're set up. They're kind of set up to sort of mimic classic playing cards to some degree, but his own very unique style, and in person they're even more amazing. I haven't bought sleeves for these yet. I probably won't for these ones, just because honestly I think that would take away a little bit from it. So I guess the next hope is, and there's the dragon card. As I said, in the basic game, it's not used. It's only used in the power play, so I don't know how it's used. I think when it shows up is when a specific action can happen. It signifies a certain part of the game that can be played at that moment, but I'm not really sure. And I realize I didn't talk about it, but maybe it doesn't need to be talked about. The rules booklet itself is only 34 pages. The last few pages are game examples. The last couple pages before that are kind of explaining different hands. And so it's really, there's the expert game there, advanced game. Advanced game starts on page 17. So I mean, it's really 16 pages of rules for the beginner game. Some of that is like the intro. There's the legend of the Dragonmaster and that sort of thing, the object of the game. And like I said, it's very simple to pick up, especially if you have a history of playing card games and know the basics of trick-taking games. There you go, a look inside the Dragonmaster game box. Thanks very much for watching. No sooner did I finish filming that little video there that I had a look for some Bob Pepper info online, and as I expected, he was a very prolific artist by the looks of things. That album cover there by a band called Love I've seen many times, from 1967, art by Bob Pepper, and then all of a sudden here's a whole list of sci-fi books. So he was a illustrator for some science fiction, and it also says here something else where I would have seen his stuff. Pepper's work not only decorates one of the recognizable record sleeves of the late 60s, he was working shortly afterwards as an illustrator on the celebrated series of fantasy reprints edited by Lynn Carter for Ballantine Books. Pepper's connections with Elektra Records also saw him provide sleeve art for some of the eclectic releases on their Non-Such label. And the Non-Such label is a very famous label, the Morton Subotnick. Some odd electronic music, some world music, that sort of thing. So he did some art for that as well, which is pretty incredible. And there we go, Morton Subotnick, the Wild Bull from Non-Such Records right there. Philip Jose Farmer, Flesh cover as well. Really great style. So just one of those guys that you've seen around a lot, but maybe just didn't know, one of the many nameless illustrators and artists that just kind of go unnoticed. There's another Non-Such record as well. It's funny, I was just watching a bit of, I subscribe to the Criterion Collection YouTube channel. See, and there's that outlining again. I really like that outlining. It's reminiscent of some stuff that I do as well sometimes. I watched a documentary recently about a backing band, The Wrecking Crew. Really great documentary if you're into that sort of thing. Just talk about this group of musicians that ended up working on a ton of hits and a ton of movie scores, etc. They had on the Criterion channel, there was they were talking about the music for In Cold Blood, and lo and behold, the guy talking about the music said there's this bass line by this woman, and he says her name, whose name I forget right now, and of course it's the same woman from this Wrecking Crew, which that's just the way these things go. All these people that go unnoticed, but you've heard their music a million times. Ooh, look at that. You've heard their music a million times, and you know, what the hell? Nobody knows who the hell they are. It feels like it's like that with some of these sci-fi illustrators as well for these book jackets. Yeah, there we go. There's Dragonmaster right there. Yeah, so check out his stuff. It's pretty incredible, actually. There's some really beautiful work here. That's it. Thought I'd just add this on and share that bit of info with you as well.